Hey everyone, this is Elaine Dusetzina. Welcome to another episode of Health Transformation Stories. And today I'm going to be speaking to a mom who suffered through a lot of health issues when she was a kid and up to her college years. And we're going to learn about how she overcame these challenges, particularly her unstoppable sugar cravings, which many of us can probably relate to that. And if you do, go ahead and leave a comment and feel free to ask any questions that you may have, and we'll try to answer them. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and bring my guest in and introduce her to you. So here we go. All right, say hello to Rachel Myer.
Hello. Thanks for having me on, Elaine.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day. And if you are just tuning in, I am here in San Diego, and Rachel is in Denver. Is that right?
In Colorado, yep.
Denver, Colorado. So yeah, let us know where you're tuning in from, whether you're watching this on live or on replay. All right, so let me formally introduce you to Rachel, bringing up her bio here. And Rachel is an online nutrition and gut health expert. She specializes in helping women eliminate sugar cravings, chronic fatigue, and those out of control feelings around food. She's passionate about helping women ditch the all or none diet mentality and find adventure in healthy living. She also has an online nutrition and fitness program, and she leads backpacking, snowshoeing, day hikes, and more where she resides in Colorado. That's the fun part, the backpacking, snowshoeing.
It is.
So Rachel, I'm going to go right ahead into your story, and I like to go back in the past before you even became a health coach. And on your website, you described yourself as a Dorito and Mountain Dew lover turned into a wellness entrepreneur. So let's go back in time. You mentioned, or I read that you had issues back when you were a kid, like many health issues. So let's start with that.
Yeah, so as a kid, I kind of ate the traditional diet that most people ate in the 90s. The boxed food and, macaroni and cheese, lots of carbs. And, I did actually grow up on a farm, so I did get more exposure probably to real foods than the average person just because, we had cattle and did a lot of that type of stuff. My dad had a big garden. So I think a lot of that has come through as a health coach, those pieces I learned. But, the day-to-day, I ate the junk food, I drank the sodas, and that kind of escalated into middle school and high school when I had more freedom to eat what I wanted to eat. At school, I did a lot of sports, so you need a lot of food when you do sports. And so I ate a lot of food, but not the good kind. I tell people I think it was my sophomore and junior year, I basically ate the same thing for lunch every day. So I had a Mountain Dew, a bag of the little chocolate donuts, one of the cheeseburgers from the bar, and then a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. And I ate that for lunch every day for basically 2 years of high school. And I drank other sodas, before track meets and just consumed all of the things. And that came with a lot of health issues that I never relayed back to my diet and what I was consuming in that. So I had chronic fatigue even as a kid. Like I remember doing things and just feeling like I was carrying like bricks behind me almost, just like that heavy feeling in my body. I was hospitalized 2 or 3 times for pneumonia that I just couldn't seem to get over. I would miss a week or 2 of school at a time if I had the flu. I actually almost missed my senior year graduating because I was sick for the last month with this mysterious virus, vomiting, all sorts of stuff. I got rashes all over my body. Of course, I was being given medications and all of that, so that was exacerbating it. But I had to be carried across the stage. I had like two people on each side, one person on each side of me, because I didn't have the strength to actually walk across the stage and grab my diploma. We still have no idea what that was, but I would get viruses and flus all of the time. And like I said, the pneumonias, I had chronic seasonal allergies, I had the fatigue, I had amenorrhea, so, lack of cycle as a female. And I mean, I could literally go on for another 10 minutes on kind of the ailments that I experienced. But I think a lot of people can look back, on their health journeys and see like all the things they were dealing with. They just thought were normal, like everybody gets sick and everybody's tired and everybody has allergies. Like you just take Zyrtec and it fixes it, right? Right. I grew up the traditional, lots of antibiotics, traditional pharmaceuticals. I had no understanding of holistic health and any of that. So when I started my journey, literally learning from scratch with all of that. So my health issues continued to worsen after college, even though I was an exercise science degree major. I loved exercise, still had no understanding of nutrition. And after college is when I started to really pursue learning about nutrition and kind of holistic living.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's a long list of issues. And you're right. You don't realize that this is something that may be stemming from what we're putting in our body. And I think nowadays, maybe people are realizing more and more because people, I guess, are talking more about it online on how food really affects the way what our body, just like you said, you had, all this health issues, but again, we don't know what's really going on. So at what point did you realize that this could be, from what you're eating? Is it from when you went to school? Did you start realizing, oh, maybe this is what was happening to me back then?
So what happened actually, it was kind of a major life event. So I went to Africa my sophomore year of college, and going into that trip, it was my first trip overseas. Hadn't really done any traveling in my life. I had horrific gut health, obviously, and when you go into a foreign country, having never been to a foreign country with the health and kind of the weak immune system that I had my whole life, things can get really bad quickly. So my first week in Africa, actually like the first couple of days, I developed some really bad digestion issues to the point where they thought I had malaria already. So I was actually taken to the hospital in Africa, and they did some testing. I didn't have malaria, but I still had just debilitating gut, like digestion issues going on that made me unable to stay on the trip. Like we were supposed to be there for 8 weeks, and I think I left on the second week or third week because it just got so bad. And that led me into 3, maybe 4 years, I think it was around 3 years of debilitating health. Like I continued to decline after that. Basically, I got a parasite in Africa, but I didn't find out it was a parasite for a couple of years into this process. But I got down to about 95 pounds. I couldn't keep my food down. My fatigue worsened. Basically, like all the stuff I had got worse, and specifically the digestion stuff. And that is what led me into, okay, antibiotics aren't working. I'm really sick. Like, I just felt like I was going to die, basically. Like, this, whatever this is going to kill me. I can't do it anymore. And that's when I actually kind of stumbled onto IIN, which is Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York City. And this kind of holistic health and nutrition, and I was like, maybe this could be something that would help me. And I had kind of started researching my own stuff online. I didn't just kind of like start with IIN. It was, maybe 6 months to a year of just reading stuff online about parasites and gut health. Like I didn't even know what gut health was. Right. Antibiotics and how they actually destroy your gut health and they kind of work against you, and just I was like a sponge. I didn't know anything. So I decided to go to IIN, and through that process, I basically transitioned from a complete junk food diet to eating real food. And so that was really my experience. I was forced into learning about nutrition, I always say, because I don't know that I would have, taken this path otherwise, but, that's how life works. So,
yeah. So the trigger for you was just getting really, really sick from that parasite. How long did it take for you to resolve that, for the parasite to leave your body where you started?
I think the time I went to Africa, it was about 4 years.
Oh my goodness. That's a long time.
The thing that kicked it at the very end was this very specific antibiotic, because we finally figured out which parasite I had. Mm-hmm. So I went through a bunch of detoxes, like gut health detoxes, where you have to take out all your grains, take out all your sugar, because you basically starve the parasite in your body by taking all the sugars out of your body and all the grains and starches. So I basically a keto diet, which was terrible for my body, and I lost a ton more weight, and it didn't really work in the end. Mm-hmm. So I tried a ton of different protocols, and so I kind of just say it was probably all of them kind of together, mm-hmm. the antibiotics, the diet, dietitian protocols, all of that. And after that, it took still several years to get my gut health to a normal place. I still have an allergy to gluten, and I still have IBS issues when I eat certain foods. Mm. But through the coaching that I do, and just kind of the healing I do in my own body through my own nutrition practices, I feel like I'm shocked at how good my gut health is after all the things that my body went through with the parasites and the eating habits and just on my immune system, to be at the place I am now and be able to, splurge on foods and just have more food freedom with my food is not something I ever thought that I would have again. So I feel very fortunate to, have continued on this journey, and I just continue to get healthier. So.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I wanted to bring up that photo that you sent to me. So you said this was posted on Instagram, and sorry.
And that was just honestly a couple of years ago. Okay. That was still when I was, I was eating real food, mm-hmm. and I talk a lot about this in my coaching. Is for a lot of people, the amount of food choices we have nowadays, it's no longer an intuitive thing to understand how to eat for optimal insulin levels, optimal energy, keeping your sugar cravings low. That's not something people really understand at a core level anymore, which is why I coach it. Right. And I really didn't understand that a couple of years ago either. I actually started my 6-week course about a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So that was before I had kind of started that. And so I was eating real healthy food, but I still had a lot of inflammation. I was still a carb addict, couldn't get my sugar cravings under control. I still had chronic fatigue. I still felt anxious and had a lot of brain fog. So that's, from that picture.
So,
I was a health coach.
So, let's talk about the sugar cravings. I think people would be interested in finding out, how were you able to, what was it like for you in terms of the sugar craving? Can you describe that?
Yeah, it was I never got full. I was always hungry from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed. And I just kind of, being a petite person who's always naturally skinny, I always just thought, it's my metabolism. It's just so fast, it can't keep up. And my body just, needs more food than the average person. But what I realized is that it doesn't matter if you're skinny or overweight, you can have those chronic insulin levels going on in your body, and they may manifest in a different way for someone else. It might cause weight gain, and it does for a lot of people. But for someone who doesn't struggle with putting on weight, it might just be you're hungry all day. You crave sugars. You could sit and eat carbs till you're blue in the face, and then you want more and more and more. And I just really never felt satisfied. I was constantly hangry, if you will, the shove people out of the way to get to my food. I would get jittery and anxious if I didn't have food around me. And so that's really how my sugar cravings manifested, and I find that most of my clients kind of describe the same situation going on. A lot of people call it binge eating, and yes, binge eating can come from emotional stuff too, but I think a lot of our binge eating comes from our bodies being chronically addicted to carbohydrates and those insulin levels being really, really elevated.
So yeah, we talked about the particular carbohydrates you're mentioning are the processed carbohydrates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a kind of research study done on a population. I can't remember the name of them now, but they're kind of still a little bit more primal. Mm-hmm. Don't have much access to processed foods, but they eat like 300 plus grams of carbohydrates per day, and they basically have zero presence of chronic disease, diabetes, insulin resistance of any sort. And so I don't think that it's the amount of carbohydrates as much as it is the types of carbohydrates, our lack of movement, and pairing those two together, it kind of creates a disaster.
Yeah. So what was your approach? So once you had that parasite in Africa, you started to make some types of changes. So you said you coupled with antibiotics. You were trying different type of protocols. Which one did you finally realize was the one that was best for you?
So after I kind of got better and I didn't have the debilitating in bed, kind of bedridden stuff, I got to kind of live my life again. And I kind of just approached it like, I'm going to change my life, and I'm so fascinated by nutrition and holistic living and really kind of the whole lifestyle, getting away from how I lived before. And so I started going to farmers markets and I started learning how to cook. I didn't really know how to cook at all, even though my parents were great cooks. I didn't really ever dabble in that. So I just learned how to cook and get in the kitchen, and that's kind of where the whole adventurous living kind of infused and married with what I was doing, because I love adventure, and I find that if people don't make health about something bigger and something fun, it's not something that can stick long term. So for me, I never went on a diet. I never followed a specific protocol. I would learn about them and maybe like dabble just to kind of see what it was like, but I never approached my health with a specific protocol. Mm-hmm. I just simply learned how to get real food in my body, get in the kitchen and cook more, and that kind of evolved into studying insulin resistance, chronic disease, the sugar cravings, insulin levels. So I do a lot of studying around that. So I study aspects of keto and aspects of paleo and aspects of low carb, and primal living and that type of thing. And I kind of marry them all together in my own little way, so that it's sustainable for people long term. So that's kind of how I've approached it personally, just because I don't like super strict kind of protocols unless you have an autoimmune disease going on or seizures or some really specific health issue that's going to be really beneficial for. I think the average person just really needs to understand those basic concepts, and then they can be really successful long term with sustaining it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Some people get stuck into a certain protocol, and then it becomes really challenging for them to follow it without realizing that you can dabble in different ones and see which one works for you, or like you're doing, combine them and see which ones are the ones that work best for your body. So and speaking of this, did you find what were the barriers for you? What were while you were going through this changes?
Yeah, I think I had just never known anything but really processed foods, and so my taste buds were conditioned to crave. I think specifically cutting gluten out was really hard for me, even though I knew it was, a pretty intense food allergy that I had developed through my childhood and the parasite, just kind of having a destroyed gut. Mm-hmm. That was something I needed to get out of my diet. So I think cutting that food group out was really challenging. Mm-hmm. Just really learning, what do I replace those carbohydrates with? Because I was basically eating a total processed gluten-based carbohydrate diet. I wasn't eating a lot of vegetables. I wasn't eating, any whole grains. I didn't even know what a carb was. All I knew was a piece of bread was a carb, or a bag of chips. Mm-hmm. And so I think just the slow process, the marathon process of really understanding how to transition, away from that processed food diet. And that's why I always tell my clients, like, I consolidate for you in six to 12 weeks, what it took me 6 years or more to learn, because it's not intuitive anymore. I mean, everybody's so busy, commuting to their jobs, taking care of their kids. We have more stress than ever. And to tell someone to, take gluten out when it's a primary staple in their diet, that can be really, really challenging and overwhelming. And a lot of people just don't do it. But I have like so many women in my course who are like, I didn't even know I was allergic to gluten, but now when I eat it, I feel so awful. And I'm so glad I have the tools and resources, to really like get it out and know what to eat instead. So I think just figuring out what alternatives I could eat, learning how to cook it, learning what it was, like quinoa, I didn't even know where to find that in the grocery store. Right. So just, before I had kids, I would just spend hours in the grocery store, like looking at all these new foods and these new vegetables. And I was just fascinated, by all of it. And that was obviously an advantage to me, that it was an interest and a passion, but not everybody has that interest and passion. They just want to get food on their plate and feel healthy. They don't want to go spend 3 hours in the grocery store. So I think that can be like a really big barrier, for a lot of people. And then, having kids and just all the extra stress and exhaustion that comes with that was definitely hard in the beginning. But that was almost 6 years ago that I became a mom. So I've definitely worked through the struggles and kinks of motherhood and eating healthy. So
So for you, I think for you, your passions for like nutrition definitely helped you with overcoming those barriers. And I was wondering if you had any other type of support system. I know you said you went through IIN, if that was like a support system for you, if your husband is, or anyone in your family while you were going through this, because as you said, it took, taking gluten out when you're so used to this type of like meals every day of your life, it's hard to just make that transition. And I think part of it comes from social support, and I was wondering if you had that while you were making these changes.
Yeah, my husband's always been like, I'll eat whatever you fix me. I think that can be a really challenging thing for a lot of my female clients anyways, is their kids are, maybe a little bit older, and they have, eaten a certain way for X amount of years, and to just change that overnight, is hard. So my husband's always been like adventurous. He'll eat whatever, he has. He's always been very supportive of my business and kind of my health in general. He actually did the gluten, dairy, sugar-free protocol with me that I had to do when I had my parasite. And it's funny because he's like a total sugar addict by kind of nature, default, and he always refers back to that time where he felt better than ever in his life when he cut gluten and sugar out. I don't think it was so much the dairy as it was the sugar for him and gluten. So that's always just a funny story. So he knows what it feels like to feel really good, and so he's really supportive of me eating and fixing whatever we want. And for me, personal development has been a huge thing. Reading books, listening to podcasts, staying plugged into online influencers who are kind of on the same path as I am career-wise and just interest-wise with their, nutrition and all of that. So on a day-to-day basis, that's like kind of I call them my online mentors, even though I don't know a lot of them. I'm listening to their podcasts and I'm reading their stuff and I'm watching them, and that really keeps me inspired. And now I have over 100 women that I coach online every single day. So honestly, like being their coach and seeing, where some of these women are starting from, really, really dire health situations, and the perseverance that they have every single day, keeps me like on it, So I haven't always had the client thing going on, but my husband, the personal development, and now just kind of a combination of all of that I have off days like anyone else,
Yeah.
but I know that I just kind of need to take a step back and rest on those days, chill out a little bit, and then get my focus, back in the right place. And I think the support is what most people are missing, because I hear it all the time. I'm just going to go on Pinterest and find some recipes and I'll do it on my own. But it's just like anybody, our human nature is, if we don't have a plan in place and we don't have a support system, like those hard weeks, those stressful times are going to come at you. And if you don't have those two things in place, most people don't have the willpower and just kind of inner determination to follow through with things that are really challenging like that. So
yeah, and that's where you come in as a coach. That's awesome. I was going to ask about if when your husband did that no dairy, no sugar thing with you, if he felt anything different about himself, and that's great. That was like the best feeling he had. So I want to go ahead and transition. So you're now a health coach, you're a wellness entrepreneur, and you've already mentioned briefly on it about you have a 6-week program that you offer. Do you want to quickly talk about that?
Yeah, so my 6-week course is really born out of okay, I've transitioned to real food, but I still have chronic fatigue, I still have sugar cravings, and I still don't have kind of that system to follow that really keeps me feeling mentally and physically, on point. And so the 6-week course really teaches you how to get to the root of your sugar cravings. Because I always say you can't tackle sugar cravings with willpower. That's telling somebody, I don't just create a course and tell people don't eat sugar or just eat more kale. I actually dive into the knowledge and set you up with the understanding of what's going on in your body, so you can apply any diet or any principle, any workout to this knowledge I'm giving you and really understand how to keep your insulin levels lowered. What most people don't understand is that your body can't burn fat, and your body will not stop craving carbohydrates and sugars until your insulin levels are lowered. And most people are looking at me like, well, that's cool to know, but how do I fix that? And so my 6-week course teaches you exactly how to fix that and sustain it the rest of your life. So it's not a keto. It's not I'm going to slash all your carbs forever and take all your grains away and make you eat paleo the rest of your life. It really is just teaching you a system so that you understand how to get those sugar cravings lowered. And it's pretty amazing, because I'll have women in the first week say that they have more energy than they've had since their 20s or they can ever remember. And it's just so fascinating how quickly the body heals. We have these solutions to diabetes and prediabetes and chronic sugar cravings and feeling out of control, but we just kind of hop around them. Going paleo, counting calories, exercising more, none of those things teach you how to get your insulin levels lowered. So I always tell people, if that's the issues you're struggling with, that's why you're having trouble losing weight, you're not going to fix it with all these other things until you really understand those core concepts. So I basically take them through a in-depth educational experience. I'm in the course with them, so I run the 6-week course basically every other month, and I have a stellar group of women in there every round. And so it's all online. You can do it anywhere with any schedule you have. We don't meet in person. It's all done at your own pace, and we just kind of walk through it with you. So that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's awesome what you're doing, and actually just having the solution itself, and it's all I'm sure it's all science-based, and you're giving them the reasons as to why they're experiencing what they're experiencing, and it really boils down to their insulin levels. It's so important to know about that, and like you said, not too many people are really familiar with it, and with just having that information on hand. I've seen your videos, your interviews with the people that you've helped, with the women that you've helped in your group, and I think it's amazing what you're doing. So I appreciate what you do, and thank you for sharing that. If anyone would like to get in touch with you, because we're running out of time, how would they contact you? How would they connect with you?
You can find my website at summitfit.com, like the mountain summit, summitfit.com. If you're on social media, you can find me on Instagram at summitfitofficial. And my course is called Fuel Your Adventure, because I'm all about like pushing you towards those greater adventures. So even though I talk about sugar cravings and all that, the overarching theme is the adventure. So that's what the course is called on my site. We start January 7th on the next one. My Facebook is still called Rachel Myer Fitness, because Facebook doesn't let you change the name. So you can find me at a totally different name over there. So yeah, I'd love to connect with you and answer any questions about what I just talked about, and love meeting new people. So thank you so much for having me on here and really just sharing your passion and knowledge for health. So it's inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for taking the time out. Yeah, everyone check out her website, summitfit.com. It's a beautiful website. You just had it redone, right? You just had some, and you can see all her adventures on there, especially on Instagram. I love all the photos that you post on Instagram. So again, thank you for tuning in. And with that being said, I think we're going to have one more show before Christmas. And we'll take care and have a good day. Bye.